So this is the sort of thing that happens when you have people that have some tools but no knowledge whatsoever trying to build a street rod. This truck, and I use the term loosely because it isn't much of a truck anymore, was, as I understand it, a complete driving vehicle when this owner bought it, and he let his neighbor work on it for him. So let's just start here. Look at this wonderful job of putting the spring or the rear axle mounts and U-bolts from, I assume, an S10 to fit this. I'm going to go back here and just let's have a look here at what should be shackles on the rear of the spring. Is just a bolt through the spring eye and a long bolt of that, because there's a whole stack of nuts on the backside to take up the space. Same thing over on this side. But you gotta love the angle that the spring is running on. I mean, this is just wow. And let's look at the spring mounts again, or the axle mounts. Isn't that wonderful? Amazing stuff. We have a wonderful brake line job here. The exhaust that isn't attached to anything because, well, who knows? We've got stuff cut here. Let's go back here and we'll look. I love this here too, because look at the frame has been cut right through almost, and then there's a little plate welded on top of it. I'm going to go up on top so we can see sort of what kind of work was done up here. Now, the other side, we have the exact same crap. Frame cut right through. I assume that this was done the way they're pie cut because the springs were going to be too wide for the way the frame sat back here. So they've pie cut it and spread the rear frame rails out to try and make the suspension fit. Not that the suspension was worth mentioning because, you know, good Lord. Now, I'm not sure what this piece of 1x1 tubing is doing in there next to that front spring mount. We got some more butchery cutting. Gotta love that box mount. Big block of wood. I'm gonna go around the outside here. And yeah, this is what passes for a front spring hanger. Gotta love it. Got to love it. And we've got a patch on the frame, which I'm going to assume was maybe one of the original spring hangers, or maybe for the running boards. There was something there and they cut it off, and maybe there was a hole behind it, so they patched it. Love this drive shaft. Custom 2-piece drive shaft. And it's not even in phase. Like, I mean, you know, I'm looking at it here. Let's follow that straight back and look how far out of phase those U-joints are. Wow. So, and now we've got a cross member of sorts. Now, looking at this appears to be an older modification. I suspect when this was still actually, you know, at a factory ride height, and somebody had converted this to a small block from the original 6-cylinder and 3 on the tree. It looks like they used a cross member from, I don't know, maybe a Camaro, an S10, something. They cut it, and well, you can see. So now this is we're gonna look back here and let you see something. Okay, so they've cut the entire floor out of this thing. You got 1x1 steel square tubing and body metal that they've made a floor out of. There are no rocker panels. This is carpet. This is the carpet on the bottom of the door. See this? Yeah, there's the door opening up, and you can see how much they've cut out of this thing to try and channel it over the frame. Everything has been cut and butchered, as you can see. Cab mounts, you know, the mounts for the running boards. Everything is just completely butchered on this poor truck. You know, these, you know, well secured brake lines. This, I think, was a fuel line at one time. It's draped over what's left of the drive shaft. That wonderful two-piece unit. More cab mounts, wood mounts, piece of 2x4. The battery box is under here. And on the passenger side, we can see the same kind of butchery where they cut the rockers right out. I mean, this thing's scary. The worst part is the fellow that owns it, you know, he admits he doesn't know anything about cars. Always wanted something like this. I'm sure he didn't want something quite like this. Here's a shot of the butchery of the passenger side front spring mount for the rear end. You know, some body cancer. But, you know, geez, like all kinds of butchery. Yeah, some classic old Kraggers or whatever brand they might have been. A fair bit of mud in there. Nothing, you know, the inner fender brace is completely gone. So now we're looking at the front fender, where they just, you know, hacked the bottom out of the fender to get them down low. I don't know how they figured it was going to line up with any kind of, with the hood or anything else, because, you know, obviously they wanted it to look real low, but they didn't give any thought to lining up body lines or anything. We're looking in from behind the front wheel. Right up through the gaping hole where the firewall used to meet the floorboards. There's nothing there. No cab mounts. Just the 2x4 up in there somewhere. Oh, there it is. We still have the factory original front suspension. Kingpins, drum brakes. You know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that stuff. But you know, it has to be in good shape, and none of this is. I want to show you the bottom of the oil pan. I mean, wonder if the pickup tube is even still attached with a smash like that in the bottom of the pan. These motor mounts, gosh, these are something else. You can see there's still a bolt through it, but and we have this mess, these plates all welded to the frame, welded to a piece of 2x2 up there, and it all looks like everything, but I don't know if you can see this, but yeah, that bolt going through the motor mount is welded to that bracket. You know, there's no removing that. You know, there's no removing the engine short of cutting the motor mounts off. Same thing on the side. Everything's, you know, welded together. It's just really, you know, and it's some of this stuff was an old modification, because this is old, you know, stick welder boogers all over it. It's not not anything that was done recently. I'm not sure what this was, but it used to go right straight across here to the passenger side. This is looking in through the lower part of the grill, and you can see where, you know, some real fancy cutting happened with a grinder and a cutoff wheel in order to get the grill to sit down over the frame. Look at the other side. It's pretty well butchered the same way. There's something interesting going on up in here. There's pieces of plate between the shackle, the front spring shackle, and the bushing. In fact, there's a piece here that I can turn, and one on the other side that I can't quite turn. Same over here. There's a whole bunch of stuff boogered in there. There's a really good shot of that caved in oil pan. Okay, so we're back up top here now. So we've got, you know, a big rectangular butchered hole in the firewall for the steering column to come through, which the steering column is, I don't know, it's hanging on something in there. And at some point they had this tack welded on here, but it's broken off now. Why they tack weld it instead of just, you know, putting, you know, sliding it together properly and putting a pin through it like it's supposed to, I don't know. This is the reason it came here. You know, he was referred to me by a mutual acquaintance of ours that, you know, I got the call, can I rebuild this engine for him? So we've got, you know, a really nice looking chrome tunnel ram, some chrome valve covers, some orange paint. It's got a pair of Edelbrock carbs on it, wrapped up there in the plastic. But there's like 2 bolts holding that tunnel ram on. So I know it didn't run with that setup. There's no distributor in it. I haven't checked block numbers yet, but that's a late 70s or 80s timing cover with the timing tab up there. Now, I know these things get changed and that, so God only knows. But I'm going to check the block numbers to see whether this thing's even a 350 or maybe it's a, you know, maybe it's a 305, maybe it's a 267. Who knows? I also looked at the heads, and they are the later model light casting heads. So they, I don't hold any hope that those things are decent. He said he did hear it run once, but it ran really rough. Now it does, the crankshaft does turn, so it's not seized. But I mean, look at this wonderful rad support here. I don't know where they figured the rad was going to sit in this truck. They obviously weren't planning on putting a hood in it, because they cut the rad support way down to lower these front fenders way down. And yeah, I mean, the rad would have stuck up, yeah, way up here somewhere. Yeah, it came here, front fenders tack welded on here, front fenders tack welded to the body here and here. While we were pushing it in, the tack weld that was here broke, and the fender nearly fell off. But back to those motor mounts. So we noticed before that the bolts going through them were welded to the brackets down below. Now, there's the, standard GM motor mount, that they used through the 70s and 80s. That's supposed to go to a rubber mount. It's just welded on top of that 2x2 square tubing. Nice handiwork, guys. Like I say, what I can see of the body looked like it was reasonably solid, and then they just chopped everything out of it. Kind of a shame. Once again, here's another shot of the driver's side motor mount. Welded, solid. I'm not even sure how you would get that engine out. I guess you might be able to reach up in with a wobble socket and take the 3 bolts out of the block if there's enough access. I haven't looked that close yet. And here's the driver's side firewall that's been all chopped out. Somewhere down in there, there's the master cylinder. This was your clutch pedal linkage, but the clutch pedal has been chopped off because apparently you don't need that if you're going to run whatever automatic there is in it. But there's the brake pedal appears to have been the same sort of thing. They just cut the top of pedal rod off. Oh. Now we're back up top here inside. I've got to show you this. Look at how high up that floor is. I'm a big guy. There's no way I could even get in this thing and sit if my life depended on it. My knees would literally be probably higher than the speedometer. Running a clutch pedal, or God forbid even that brake pedal that's way down underneath the dash under there, where nobody could reach it. We got a tilt steering column out of, I don't know, it's just in there flopping around, as you can see. It does nothing. Came with a handy dandy set of race car headers, dirt modified style headers that won't even come close to fitting anything on this truck. You can see it through. You got the view of the passenger front tire there, and you got view of the driver's front wheel and suspension, on this side. The driver's door doesn't shut. Passenger door will if you hold your tongue the right way and shove and lift and push all at the same time. But and it was one of the 5-window cabs. All the leftovers, everything they cut off of it unceremoniously, got dumped in the bed, which there is no floor in the bed. It's just laying on top of the kind of half-ass fabricated frame rails or cross members for the bed. And here's one of the last things that caught my eye. This truck had the big sun visor mounted on the outside, and they look cool, but in taking it out, look at the way they yanked the roof metal out to get that thing off, because they couldn't unbolt it. Just sad, really.